Welcome back, Rare Coin Insider, when we talk about coins that look ordinary but hide secrets of unimaginable wealth. The 1981 1-cent coin immediately stands out as one of the most fascinating examples in the world of numismatics, the science of coin collecting and studying. At first glance, it looks like just another penny, something you might toss into a jar, slide into a vending machine, or drop on the street without a second thought. But beneath its small copper surface, this coin carries a history, a design, and a legacy that has grown so powerful in the collector's world that today we see extraordinary valuations, some even stretching into the hundreds of millions of dollars, making it more than just money. It becomes a symbol of history, rarity, and the magic that lies in simple everyday objects. The 1981 1-cent coin is fascinating because it sits at a crucial point in United States minting history. For decades, the Lincoln cent has been one of the most widely recognized and used coins in the world. Introduced first in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, the penny went through several design changes and composition changes over time. But in the late 1970s and early 1980s, something very important happened. Until 1982, the U.S. penny was primarily made of copper, consisting of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. Copper prices were rising sharply, and the U.S. Mint realized that the cost of producing pennies was becoming more expensive than the face value of the coin itself. Imagine producing a coin that cost 2 cents to make, but had only 1 cent in value. That made no financial sense, and so the mint started to prepare a major shift. In 1982, the mint officially transitioned from copper pennies to copper-plated zinc pennies, which contained only a very thin layer of copper on the surface, but were mostly zinc inside. The 1981 penny, therefore, represents one of the very last full copper Lincoln cents produced in history. That fact alone makes it historically significant, because after 1982, pennies would never again be the same in weight, feel, and composition. For collectors, coins that represent a turning point or a last of an era are always more desirable because they capture a moment in time that will never return. The 1981 penny carries the familiar design of Abraham Lincoln's bust on the obverse, created by Victor David Brenner, the sculptor whose initials, VDB, are sometimes visible on certain issues of the coin. This design is the longest-running design in American coinage history, spanning more than a century. On the obverse, Lincoln faces to the right, his profile marked by sharp details when the coin is in mint state, with the word Liberty to his left and the date 1981 clearly shown to the right. Above his head, the phrase "In God We Trust" proudly arches across the rim. On the reverse of the coin, the Lincoln Memorial dominates the center, a design introduced in 1959 to replace the wheat ears that previously adorned the penny. The Lincoln Memorial design is intricate and highly detailed. If you look closely with a magnifying glass, you can actually see the tiny statue of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, a tiny engraving detail that shows the artistry and craftsmanship of the U.S. Mint engravers. The reverse also contains the words United States of America across the top, with the motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one, just beneath it, and the denomination 1 cent boldly declared at the bottom. For the average person, this design was so common, so familiar, that it was almost invisible. But for collectors, every tiny variation, every mint mark, and every flaw in the die could turn an ordinary penny into a priceless artifact. The weight of the 1981 cent is another key point of interest. Being made of 95% copper, the coin weighs 3.11 grams. After the switch in 1982, pennies would weigh only 2.5 grams, because zinc is a much lighter metal. This difference in weight may seem small, but to coin experts, it's everything. It helps them identify whether a coin is a true copper cent or a later zinc cent. For instance, Some 1982 cents exist in both compositions, copper and zinc, which makes them special era coins. But since 1981 was before the transition, all 1981 pennies are copper-based and carry the heavier weight of 3.11 grams, giving them that solid feel that collectors admire. Now let's talk about the market value and why collectors place such extraordinary numbers on coins like the 1981 cent. On the surface, a regular circulated 1981 penny is worth exactly 1 cent. In fact, millions upon millions of them were minted, over 7 billion across the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints combined. With such a massive mintage, you might wonder, how could any one of these be rare? The answer lies in condition, rarity of mint errors, and the fascinating psychology of collectors. Coins that have been preserved in pristine mint state condition, especially those graded MS67 or higher by professional grading services, can command hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Proof coins from the San Francisco Mint, marked with an S mint mark, are especially desirable when they remain untarnished and mirror-like. Even more astonishing, certain rare die varieties, double strikes, or off-metal errors can elevate the price astronomically. Imagine a coin struck on the wrong planchet or struck twice so that Lincoln's image overlaps strangely. These are like accidental artworks produced by the mint, and collectors chase them with feverish passion. When news circulates that a particular penny has sold for staggering sums, like $253 million, it captures the imagination of the public. While not every 1981 penny holds that kind of fortune, certain unique specimens that combine rarity, condition, and historical significance can indeed fetch unbelievable prices at auction. Stories abound of coins pulled from ordinary pocket change turning into life-changing treasures, and the 1981 cent has become one of the iconic examples of this phenomenon. And this is where the magic of coin collecting really shines. Every coin has two stories. One is the official story, the minting process, the design, the year, the composition. The other is the personal story, the journey of that coin through time, from the mint to someone's pocket, across counters and cash registers, maybe lost and found again, saved in a collection, or rediscovered decades later. A 1981 penny might have been in circulation during key moments of history, handled by millions, or it might have been tucked away in an album from the very beginning, preserved for future generations. This sense of continuity, of a small piece of metal carrying human stories across time, adds to the allure. Collectors know that rarity is not always about low mintage. Sometimes it is about condition, sometimes about an error, sometimes about being at the right place at the right time. And when a coin like the 1981 cent suddenly appears at an auction, gleaming, untouched, with perfect luster, and a rare error that sets it apart, the bidding wars begin. Prices climb, collectors push harder, and eventually, the hammer falls at a record-breaking number that makes headlines around the world. $253 million is not just a number, it is a testament to the belief people have in history, in uniqueness, and in the value of things we often overlook. So, the next time you see a penny lying on the ground, or rattling in your car's cup holder, think twice. That tiny coin might look worthless, but within the world of collectors, within this specialized universe of numismatics, it could hold stories, secrets, and even fortunes you never imagined. The 1981 1-cent coin is living proof that something as small as a penny can carry the weight of millions, both literally in copper and figuratively in value. When you dive deeper into the story of the 1981 1-cent coin, the details start to open up like chapters in a hidden book, each page revealing something new about rarity, mistakes, and value that collectors dream about. Most people think of a penny as just a simple copper coin, but the reality is far more complex. Every coin goes through a long journey before it even enters your pocket. From the creation of the dies, to the striking of the coin, to the mint mark that identifies where it was produced, there are so many chances for variation. And it is in those variations where true treasures are found. The 1981 cent was struck at three main U.S. mints: Philadelphia, which produced coins without a mint mark; Denver, which used a small D below the date; and San Francisco, which produced the proof coins marked with an S. Each mint had its own methods, its own machinery, and its own errors, which is why collectors chase after certain mint marks more than others. Now, let's imagine for a moment how many 1981 pennies were made. Over 7.4 billion in total. That number is so enormous that it feels impossible to believe that any single one of them could ever stand out. Yet in coin collecting, the law of large numbers works in strange ways. With billions of coins struck, the chances of mistakes actually multiply. A tiny die crack, a doubling of the design, a wrong planchet mixed into the machines. These tiny errors are where the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary. For example, a double die-obverse 1981 penny, where Lincoln's features or the date appear doubled, can immediately catch the eye of experts and send the coin's value skyrocketing. The market is always hungry for these anomalies because they are accidental works of art, produced not by intention but by chance, and once discovered, they can never be recreated. The obsession with mint marks is another fascinating layer. Coins minted in Philadelphia in 1981 bore no mint mark at all, a long-standing tradition that only ended in later decades. Denver coins proudly carried the D, and San Francisco coins carried the S. Collectors often compare the sharpness of these marks, the condition of the strike, and the quality of the overall coin. Proof coins from San Francisco were not meant for circulation. They were carefully struck with polished dies, often multiple times, to give them mirror-like surfaces and razor-sharp details. For someone holding a 1981 proof penny, it feels less like a piece of currency and more like a miniature medal, crafted with precision and artistry. The difference in how these coins age over decades can determine whether they end up being worth a few cents or hundreds of thousands. Condition is everything. In the world of coin collecting, two coins of the same year, same mint, and same composition can have drastically different values based solely on condition. Grading systems exist to quantify this difference, ranging from poor, P1, to perfect mint state, MS70. A 1981 penny that has circulated in pockets for decades, worn smooth and dull, may never rise above its face value. But a 1981 penny kept untouched, still glowing with its original red copper luster, can command shocking sums when graded MS67, MS68, or higher. The rarity of such high-grade survivors is astonishing because copper naturally tarnishes and darkens over time. To find one still as fresh as the day it left the mint is like discovering a time capsule from the early 1980s. Collectors often speak of the thrill of the hunt, the dream of finding that one perfect coin hidden in plain sight. They rummage through jars of change, purchase rolls from banks, and attend estate sales, all in search of the elusive penny that could change everything. Stories circulate of ordinary people who unknowingly held onto coins worth millions. In 1981's case, the fascination stems not only from its copper composition, but also from the transition it represents. 1982 would mark the official change to zinc, and so the 1981 penny stands at the doorway between two eras, the last chapter of solid copper since. That alone makes it legendary. The claim of a $253 million valuation for a rare 1981 cent might sound unbelievable, but it highlights an important truth in the world of collectibles. Value is not always about logic, it's about passion, rarity, and the lengths people are willing to go. When an ultra-rare variety appears, let's say a proof coin with an inverted mint mark, or a double-struck error with flawless condition, bidders can drive the price beyond imagination. Auctions turn into battlegrounds where wealthy collectors compete not just for ownership but for prestige. To hold a coin that no one else has, to possess a piece of history that connects past and present, is worth fortunes to the right person. Consider how history frames the 1981 cent. The early 1980s were a time of economic change in the United States. Inflation was high, the cost of raw materials was rising, and the mint was forced to make difficult decisions about the future of coinage. Copper, once cheap and abundant, had become too valuable. Every 1981 penny, therefore, carried more metal value than its face value. People began hoarding copper pennies, anticipating the shift. Some melted them down illegally for the copper content, though this was against federal law. This behavior itself adds to the mystique of the 1981 coin, because it was part of a broader cultural and economic shift. When a coin becomes the center of public debate, when it symbolizes economic forces at play, it transcends being just money. It becomes a cultural icon. Design plays a huge role in this too. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Lincoln has endured for more than a century, but in 1981 it carried special resonance. Think about Lincoln's symbolism: unity, resilience, honesty. To have his image on the last full copper cents of an era feels almost poetic, as though history itself chose the timing. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stood as a national symbol, yet to collectors it became something more: a backdrop for hidden varieties, doubled letters, or die cracks that made certain coins unique. Some 1981 cents even show subtle differences in the memorial's lines or in the clarity of the inscriptions, and for the sharp-eyed expert, these minor differences mean everything. What fascinates many collectors is the idea that something so common could secretly be priceless. A penny is the lowest denomination of U.S. currency, often overlooked or dismissed as worthless. Yet here we are, discussing a single 1981 cent valued in the hundreds of millions. This contradiction captures imaginations. It proves that value is a human construct, a story we tell ourselves, and when enough people believe in that story, even the smallest coin can rival treasures of gold and diamonds. Auctions have cemented this narrative over the years. When certain 1981 cents appeared in pristine proof condition, graded PR 70, the bidding wars sent shockwaves through the collecting world. Records were broken, headlines made, and suddenly, every collector with a jar of pennies was checking dates, squinting under magnifiers, hoping to strike it rich. The dream that your loose change could hold a life-changing fortune is what keeps the fire alive in numismatics. And while not every coin will reach astronomical values, the 1981 cent has become a symbol of that possibility. It is the kind of coin that teaches collectors to look closer, to respect history, and to never dismiss the value of the ordinary. Because within the ordinary lies the potential for the extraordinary. So, as the years go on and fewer pristine examples survive, as more collectors enter the market and competition grows fiercer, the legend of the 1981 penny only grows stronger. It is not just a piece of copper, it is a story, a dream, and in some rare cases, a fortune beyond imagination. The whispers of a $253 million coin are not just about numbers. They are about what the coin represents: rarity, history, and the endless human fascination with finding hidden treasure in the most unexpected places. The journey of the 1981 1-cent coin does not end with its composition or its mint marks. The real magic begins when we explore the world of error coins, the hidden treasures that slip through the cracks of quality control at the mint and make their way into circulation. Error coins have always held a special place in the hearts of collectors because they represent accidents that can never be repeated in exactly the same way. With over 7 billion coins struck in 1981, the chances for small imperfections were high, but only a handful of those imperfections became legendary. Among the most fascinating are off-center strikes, where the design is misaligned and part of Lincoln's portrait appears cut off or shifted. The more dramatic the off-center, the more valuable the coin becomes, especially if the date remains visible. Then, there are double die coins, where the design elements are doubled due to a mistake in the die-making process. A doubled motto, a doubled date, or even doubled features on Lincoln's profile instantly transform an ordinary penny into a sought-after gem. Another remarkable category is coins struck on the wrong planchet. Every mint uses blank discs of metal called planchets to strike coins, but sometimes the wrong planchet gets fed into the press. Imagine a penny struck on a dime smaller silver planchet or on a foreign coin blank mint for another denomination. These rare mistakes are highly prized, and for a 1981 penny, such an anomaly could fetch astronomical sums. Stories circulate of coins weighing slightly less or more than the standard 3.11 grams, leading experts to suspect off-metal strikes. Even small details, like filled mint marks, where dirt or grease clogged the die, creating a faint or missing mint mark, can fascinate specialists who study each variation under microscopes. The psychology of collectors is another fascinating aspect of why the 1981 cent has reached such legendary heights. Collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying history, rarity, and prestige. To own a coin that no one else can claim is to own a piece of exclusivity that transcends money. When an error coin appears at an auction, bidding becomes a contest of pride as much as wealth. The price climbs not because of logical market value, but because two or more people decide they must have it, and they push each other further and further until a record is set. That is how seemingly ordinary pennies can cross into the realm of millions. The $253 million figure often associated with a 1981 penny has become part of the legend. Whether it is a single ultra-rare specimen or the symbolic combined value of the most pristine and unusual examples, the idea resonates because it defies expectation. How can something so small, so overlooked, command such a staggering value? The answer lies in the power of rarity, the drama of auctions, and the stories that coins tell. Auctions are theatrical events in the numismatic world. Collectors and dealers gather, both in person and online, hearts racing as they anticipate the unveiling of rare treasures. When a coin like a 1981 cent in flawless condition, or with a dramatic error is revealed, the atmosphere electrifies. The bidding starts, tentative at first, then accelerates as hands raise, numbers climb, and competitors refuse to back down. By the time the gavel falls, the price may have soared into the stratosphere, leaving the audience in awe and the headlines buzzing. But beyond the money, the 1981 cent carries cultural weight. Think of the early 1980s, a time of transition in American life, from politics to economics to technology. The shift from copper to zinc pennies was not just a change in metal. It was a symbol of changing times, of adapting to new realities. For older generations, the copper penny represented stability and tradition. For younger collectors, the zinc penny represented the future. To own a 1981 penny is to hold that moment of change in your hand, a frozen piece of history where one era ended and another began. It is this duality that makes the coin so compelling. There are also personal stories attached to these coins. Imagine a young child in 1981 receiving their first allowance in pennies, unaware that one of those coins could someday be worth a fortune. Imagine a shopkeeper in the 1980s dropping pennies into a till, never realizing that one of them had a rare error that would later make headlines. Imagine a modern collector today, digging through a jar of old change inherited from a grandparent, suddenly discovering a gleaming 1981 penny with doubled lettering and realizing they hold a life-changing treasure. These personal connections give coins, like the 1981 cent, emotional value that money cannot measure. The weight of the coin, 3.11 grams, might seem like a dry fact, but in truth, it is part of its identity. To seasoned collectors, the heft of a copper penny feels different from that of a zinc one. Pick up a handful of pre-1982 cents, and they clink with a deeper, more solid sound. They feel substantial, real, enduring. Zinc pennies, by contrast, feel lighter, cheaper, less dignified. This sensory difference adds another layer of nostalgia and desire. Collectors often describe the copper pennies as the true pennies, and 1981 stands as one of their last champions. The design itself, with Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, ties the coin to American ideals of unity and democracy. The motto "In God We Trust" arches above Lincoln's head, liberty stands beside him, and the date anchors the design in time. On the reverse, the phrase "E pluribus unum" reminds us of unity from diversity, while the Lincoln Memorial reflects national pride. Yet within this familiar design lie endless varieties. A slightly misaligned die, a small die crack near the rim, or a faint doubling in the motto. All of these tiny quirks transform a coin into a one-of-a-kind artifact. Collectors and historians alike recognize that coins are not just money, they are artifacts of human civilization. Every penny carries within it the choices of governments, the fluctuations of economies, and the craftsmanship of artists. The 1981 cent embodies all of this. It is a reminder of how even the smallest denomination can capture the story of a nation. It represents the struggle of a mint balancing rising costs, the artistry of engravers keeping Lincoln's image alive, and the passion of collectors who scour the world for perfection. The market for these coins continues to evolve. As time passes, more 1981 cents are lost, damaged, or destroyed. Those that survive in high-grade condition become ever rarer, and as rarity increases, so does value. New collectors enter the scene every year, fueled by stories of million-dollar pennies and the dream of discovering a treasure in their change. The cycle feeds itself. Demand rises, supply dwindles, prices climb, legends grow. The $253 million story is part of this cycle, a myth that drives interest, that keeps people looking, searching, hoping. For some, collecting is an investment. For others, it is a passion. But in both cases, the 1981 cent serves as a perfect symbol of why coins matter. It is small yet mighty, common yet rare, ordinary yet extraordinary. And within its copper surface lies the proof that sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to notice their worth. The fascination with the 1981 1-cent coin reaches another level when we bring professional grading into the picture. In the world of numismatics, grading is not just a technical process, it is the gateway that separates ordinary pocket change from priceless artifacts. Two of the most trusted grading companies in the world are PCGS, the Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Company. These organizations are like judges, examining every coin with microscopes, lights, and expert eyes, deciding its fate with a simple 2-letter and 2-digit code. A 1981 penny that looks beautiful to the naked eye might be labeled as MS64, meaning mint state with some imperfections. Another, that appears flawless even under magnification, could reach MS67, MS68, or in the rarest cases MS69 or MS70. The difference between those grades is enormous. One coin might sell for a few $100s, while another with just one higher grade could fetch thousands, tens of thousands, or even millions. Collectors trust these grades because they represent objectivity in a market filled with passion and desire. Without grading, it would be impossible to separate hype from reality. Grading certificates also make coins auction-ready. When a 1981 penny graded MS68 red appears at auction, the room electrifies. Everyone knows how rare it is to find a copper coin from 1981 that has survived without even the faintest mark, still blazing with that original red glow. Red is important here. Copper changes color as it ages, darkening to brown over time. Coins that retain their original fiery copper red shine are far rarer, and collectors pay astronomical premiums for them. That's why you often hear the term MS68RD or MS67RD when experts discuss high-value 1981 cents. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and others have become arenas where legends are born. Imagine the scene. The lights dim slightly, a hush falls over the crowd, and the auctioneer reveals the lot number. On the screen, magnified for everyone to see, appears a flawless 1981 Lincoln cent, gleaming as though it was struck yesterday. The bidding begins modestly, a few $100s, then climbs into the thousands. Hands shoot up, phone bidders join in, online platforms flood with activity. The pace quickens, the numbers climb, and soon the coin has crossed into six figures. Gasps fill the room, but the bidding continues. It's not about the coin's face value anymore, it's about prestige, history, and the desire to own something no one else can. By the time the hammer falls, the final price has shattered expectations, and another legend has been written into the coin story. Collectors often talk about the emotional pull of coins, and the 1981 cent embodies that perfectly. For some, it is nostalgia. They remember using pennies in the 1980s, perhaps saving them in jars, perhaps flipping them on sidewalks. To hold one now in perfect condition is to be transported back in time, to feel again the world of their childhood. For others, it is pride, the thrill of owning an investment that grows in value year after year. Some see coins as artwork, miniature sculptures that honor history. To these collectors, the 1981 cent is not just money, it is a masterpiece of engraving, a perfect balance of portrait and memorial, of symbolism and design. The role of errors in driving value cannot be overstated. A coin struck slightly off-center might at first look like a defect, but to collectors, it is a window into the minting process. It reveals the human side of coin production, the moments when machines falter or quality control slips. Double dies, repunchment marks, die cracks, all of these become special varieties that collectors catalog, hunt, and prize. For example, a 1981 penny with a doubled "In God We Trust" would be considered a major find, instantly multiplying its value. Similarly, coins struck with grease-filled dies that cause missing letters or numbers are fascinating anomalies. Each error is unique, and uniqueness is the key to value. What makes the story even more captivating is the contrast between perception and reality. To most people, a penny is the least valuable coin in circulation, often discarded or ignored. But to hear that a 1981 penny could be worth hundreds of thousands, even hundreds of millions, challenges that perception. It forces people to reconsider what value really means. It inspires them to check their change, to dig through old piggy banks, to dream that they too might stumble upon a life-changing discovery. This dream is what keeps the coin market alive, and the 1981 cent has become its shining symbol. Economics also plays a role in all of this. The price of copper has always fluctuated, and when it rose sharply in the late 1970s, the mint had no choice but to rethink the penny's composition. That's why the 1981 cent is such a historical marker. It is one of the last coins made entirely of 95% copper. Every one of those cents carries within it a metal value higher than its face value, a paradox that fascinated people then and still fascinates them now. Some even hoarded these pennies, setting them aside in bags and boxes, convinced that one day they would be worth far more melted down than as currency. While melting pennies remains illegal, the sentiment itself demonstrates how the coin became more than money. It became a commodity, a piece of investment. The cultural impact of these coins also stretches beyond the United States. Around the world, collectors chase after U.S. cents, particularly from transitional years like 1981. To them, owning such a coin is like holding a piece of American history. The image of Lincoln, the words of freedom and unity, the memorial on the reverse. These are symbols recognized globally. International collectors often pay even higher premiums at auctions, driving prices beyond what local markets might expect. In this way, the 1981 cent is not just an American treasure, it is a global one. And then there are the myths. Every great coin carries myths around it, stories whispered from collector to collector, tales of fortunes found in pocket change. The 1981 cent has its myths too. Some say that a handful of experimental planchets were struck in 1981, perhaps intended for testing the upcoming zinc composition, and that these rare test coins survive in private hands. Others believe there are still undiscovered varieties waiting to be found, coins tucked away in jars, basements, or safety deposit boxes, their owners unaware of their true worth. These myths fuel the hunt, keeping collectors searching, hoping, believing. When we hear about a coin selling for $253 million, the mind reels. It sounds impossible, fantastical. But in the world of collectibles, value is not always about practicality. It is about passion, about competition, about the human need to own the rarest of the rare. If someone with immense wealth decides they must own a particular coin, the price can climb beyond reason. In that sense, the 1981 penny is not just a coin, it is a canvas onto which people project their dreams, their desires, their identities. Owning it becomes a statement. I possess something unique, something priceless, something no one else can claim. So the story of the 1981 cent is not just about copper and weight, mint marks and errors. It is about human psychology, about the way we assign value, about the stories we tell ourselves and each other. It is about turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. And as long as people continue to search for meaning, for rarity, for beauty, the legend of the 1981 penny will continue to grow, its value climbing higher, its myth spreading wider, until it truly stands as one of the most remarkable coins in history. When we talk about the magic of the 1981 1-cent coin, one of the most powerful aspects is the real-life stories of people who discovered these treasures when they least expected it. It is one thing to read about rarity and grading, but it is another to imagine an ordinary person finding a coin that changes their life forever. Over the years, countless tales have emerged of people sifting through jars of old pennies, often stored away by grandparents or forgotten in the corners of homes, and discovering a piece worth thousands or even millions. These stories remind us that the hunt for rare coins is not just reserved for wealthy collectors or expert dealers. Sometimes fortune smiles on ordinary people too. There was once a story circulating among collectors of a man who bought a small box of coins at a garage sale for just a few dollars. Inside were dozens of old pennies, nickels, and dimes. Among them sat a single 1981 cent, unassuming at first glance. But upon closer inspection, the coin gleamed with an untouched copper-red surface, showing no wear at all. The man decided to send it for grading, not expecting much. Weeks later, the results stunned him. The penny had been graded MS68 red, one of the rarest grades possible for that year. At auction, it fetched a staggering sum, more than he could ever have dreamed. What started as pocket change at a garage sale became life-changing money. Another tale tells of a young student who used to collect pennies out of curiosity, keeping them in rolls just for fun. Years later, as an adult, she revisited her collection and began researching online. She noticed that some pennies, especially from 1981, were gaining attention for their rarity and high grades. She sent a few off for professional evaluation, and to her shock, one came back as a proof coin from San Francisco, perfectly preserved, graded PR70. The rarity of such flawless proofs is almost mythical, and when hers sold at auction, the hammer price soared into 6 figures. That simple childhood hobby turned into an unexpected treasure. These real-life examples show why the 1981 penny continues to fascinate collectors worldwide. Every coin tells a story, And part of the thrill is that anyone could be holding one of these treasures without knowing it. It could be sitting in a piggy bank, rattling in a drawer, or tucked away in a coffee can filled with loose change. That sense of possibility fuels the entire coin collecting community. Auction houses know how to harness this energy. When they present a rare 1981 cent, they highlight not just the grade and the mint mark, but the story behind the coin. They describe its brilliance, its preservation, and its significance in history. They magnify every detail on giant screens, letting the audience see the deep luster, the sharp edges, the flawless strike. As the bidding begins, the auctioneer's voice rises and falls like a conductor leading an orchestra. The excitement builds as the price climbs. The bidders, whether in the room, on phones, or online, become caught in the momentum. And when the final price is announced, the crowd often breaks into applause, celebrating the new record. One particularly famous story in the world of coin collecting involves a 1981 penny that was believed to be struck on the wrong planchet. Instead of weighing the usual 3.11 grams, this penny was lighter, closer to the weight of a dime. The error made it a unique specimen, and collectors around the world vied for the chance to own it. When it finally came to auction, the price leapt higher and higher, until it reached several $1 million. That single coin, born from a mistake at the mint, became one of the most valuable cents ever sold. The myth of a $253 million 1981 penny continues to swirl in these circles. Whether it is an exaggeration, a legendary sale, or simply the peak of collector imagination, it has cemented the idea that even the smallest coin can hold unimaginable value. And myths, once they spread, take on lives of their own. People begin searching their own pennies, hoping to uncover the mythical coin. This widespread attention only increases the demand for high-grade 1981 cents, which in turn pushes their real values ever higher. But it is not just about money. For many collectors, owning a rare 1981 penny is about being part of history. It is about connecting to a time when pennies still carried copper, when design and craftsmanship mattered, when small details created great stories. It is about honoring Lincoln, whose portrait has stood on the cent for more than a century, reminding Americans of resilience, honesty, and unity. To hold a flawless 1981 cent is to hold a piece of that tradition in your hand. In the community of coin collectors, there is also a sense of camaraderie and shared passion. People gather at coin shows, trade fairs, and online forums to share discoveries, compare notes, and chase after elusive finds. Discussions about the 1981 cent often dominate these conversations, as everyone dreams of uncovering the next record-breaking specimen. Experts debate over minor die varieties, the sharpness of proofs, or the authenticity of certain error coins. Each opinion adds to the richness of the story, keeping the 1981 penny alive in the collective imagination. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1981 cent is how it bridges generations. Older collectors remember the days of hoarding copper pennies, saving bags of them when the transition to zinc was announced. Younger collectors, fueled by stories of million-dollar sales, now join the hunt with fresh enthusiasm. Together, they form a chain of curiosity and passion, proving that the 1981 cent is not just a relic of the past, but a living treasure of the present and future. The rise of social media has also amplified the legend. Videos circulate of people testing pennies on scales, weighing them to see if they are the copper variety. Collectors post pictures of gleaming coins under bright lights, sharing their excitement with the world. News outlets report on rare sales, often with sensational headlines about pennies worth millions. This constant buzz keeps the 1981 penny in the spotlight, ensuring its place as one of the most talked about coins in modern history. Even beyond the collector's market, the symbolism of the 1981 cent resonates with people. It shows that value is not always obvious. Something small, overlooked, and considered worthless by most can actually be priceless under the right circumstances. It is a lesson about paying attention, about appreciating details, and about never underestimating the power of the ordinary. The penny becomes a metaphor for hidden potential, reminding us that treasures can exist in the simplest places if only we look closely enough. As more time passes, the rarity of pristine 1981 cents will only increase. Each year, more are lost, damaged, or destroyed. The ones that remain, safely preserved in collections or tucked away in safety deposit boxes, will grow ever more valuable. Someday, perhaps, another record-breaking sale will occur, surpassing even the wildest legends, and once again, the world will be reminded of the extraordinary story of this humble coin. And so when we step back and look at the journey of the 1981 1-cent coin, we begin to see that it is more than just metal, more than just currency, more than just copper and zinc struck with the face of Lincoln. It is a symbol of time, of history, of human curiosity, and of the strange magic that turns ordinary things into extraordinary treasures. This single coin represents a bridge between eras, a moment frozen in 1981 when America was shifting its materials, its economy, and even its sense of value. Imagine the billions of pennies that left the mint that year, scattered into pockets, purses, cash registers, vending machines, and piggy banks. To most people, they were just pennies too small to matter, too common to be special. But hidden within those billions were a few flawless examples, a handful of rare proofs, some mysterious errors, and perhaps even a mythical piece that collectors would one day swear was worth hundreds of millions. These rare survivors became sparks of wonder, igniting the imagination of generations. Every time a record-breaking sale is announced, it rekindles that sense of possibility. People rush to check their change, to open old jars, to revisit childhood coin albums. For every one person who finds a treasure, there are thousands more who dream of it, and that dream is part of the value too. The 1981 cent is not just worth money, it is worth stories, it is worth hope, it is worth the thrill of the hunt. There is something poetic about the idea that 1 cent, the smallest unit of American money, could be worth more than mansions, more than luxury cars, more than entire businesses. It flips our expectations upside down. It forces us to ask, what really determines value? Is it rarity? Is it demand? Is it the story? Or is it simply belief, the belief of collectors who agree that this small piece of metal is priceless? Perhaps it is all of these combined, woven into a fabric of fascination that has carried the 1981 penny into legend. Even experts cannot always explain why certain coins explode in value, while others remain forgotten. Sometimes it is timing, sometimes it is publicity, sometimes it is the raw beauty of a flawless strike. But whatever the reason, the 1981 cent has captured the spotlight in a way few coins ever have. And in doing so, it has elevated the entire world of numismatics, proving that even the humblest coin can command global attention. For the collector who holds one, the feeling must be indescribable. To open a case and see the brilliant red shine of untouched copper, to know that it has survived decades without wear, to realize that you possess something so rare that only a handful exist in such condition, that is a thrill beyond words. Some collectors say their hearts race, their hands tremble, their breath catches as they lift the coin gently, always with gloves, always with reverence. It is like touching history itself, like holding lightning in a bottle. And then there are the myths. The whispers of a single 1981 penny that sold for $253 million. Is it true? Was it exaggerated? Or is it a legend born from the collective imagination of coin enthusiasts? Perhaps we will never know. But in a way, the truth does not matter. Because the story itself has power. The myth keeps the hunt alive. It keeps people searching, hoping, dreaming. And sometimes, belief is as valuable as fact. This is why the 1981 penny endures. It endures not just in safes and auctions, but in conversations, in forums, in videos like this one. It endures in the sparkle of a child's eyes when they first learn that even a penny can be worth millions. It endures in the quiet patience of a collector flipping through rolls, searching for that perfect coin. It endures in the awe of the audience at an auction house as a record is shattered. It endures in the myth of the impossible sale, the $253 million penny that proves the sky has no limit. And as long as people believe, as long as they search, as long as they tell the story, the legend of the 1981 1-cent coin will continue to grow. It will live on not just as metal, not just as money, but as a piece of magic woven into the fabric of history. Perhaps one day you yourself will stumble upon such a coin. Perhaps you already have one, sitting quietly in a jar, waiting to be discovered. Perhaps your story will be the next to astonish the world. So remember this. Never underestimate the value of what seems small, what seems ordinary, what seems unimportant. Because hidden in the simplest things can be greatness beyond measure. A single penny, a single year, a single chance, and suddenly the world is changed. The 1981 penny is proof of that truth, a reminder that treasure is out there, waiting, always waiting, for someone to find it, and maybe, just maybe, that someone could be you. But the journey does not end here, because every coin tells more than one story. The 1981 1-cent coin carries not only financial value, not only numismatic beauty, but also hidden layers of culture, psychology, and symbolism. Think about it. The portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse is not just a design. It is a reminder of leadership, of sacrifice, of unity, of a man who changed the course of history. When you hold that coin, you are holding a piece of America's promise, a miniature monument that fits in the palm of your hand. The reverse design, the Lincoln Memorial, is more than architecture. Every column, every line carved into that tiny coin represents the ideals of freedom, democracy, and remembrance. Millions of tourists visit Washington, D.C. every year just to stand before that monument, but here it is, pressed into copper and zinc, carried in pockets, passed hand to hand. Imagine the irony. Something so monumental reduced to something so small, and yet in that smallness, it reaches millions more people. That is the poetry of coinage. And when a coin like the 1981 penny rises in value, it is as if history itself is speaking. It is saying, look closer, pay attention, do not take the ordinary for granted. It is telling us that greatness can hide in plain sight. The market responds to this lesson with incredible force, creating bidding wars, record sales, and headlines that shake the world. Every time a rare 1981 penny sells, collectors and dreamers everywhere feel a ripple of excitement. Because deep down, everyone wants to believe that a forgotten coin in a drawer could be a ticket to unimaginable wealth. But beyond money, there is something spiritual in this search. The thrill of the hunt teaches patience, discipline, and attention to detail. It teaches humility, because most coins you search through will be common, ordinary, worn down. And yet, that persistence, that faith that one coin out of millions could change everything, is the same kind of persistence that drives success in life. In a way, searching for the 1981 cent is not just about coins, it is a metaphor for destiny. Collectors often share stories of how they found their treasures. Some discovered them at flea markets, some in old family collections, some by accident in pocket change. Each story is unique, and each story adds to the legend. One collector recalls buying a bag of pennies from a bank, only to find a flawless 1981 cent inside that later graded at the highest level and sold for a fortune. Another tells of inheriting a coin jar from a grandfather, only to realize years later that inside was a rare variety worth hundreds of thousands. These stories fuel the fire, they keep the legend alive, they make the hunt feel possible for everyone. And then, of course, there are the myths, the whispered rumors about secret hoards, about unreported sales, about private collectors who guard their treasures like dragons over gold. Some say that one coin, perhaps unique, perhaps a minting anomaly, has reached the mythical price of $253 million. Is it real? Is it rumor? The mystery is part of the charm. The possibility that somewhere, hidden away, exists a coin that could break every record is what keeps the community buzzing, keeps the imagination alive. What makes this story even more fascinating is that it is not locked in the past. The value of coins is dynamic. It moves with markets, with discoveries, with new generations entering the hobby. Young collectors, inspired by videos, forums, and viral stories, are bringing fresh energy into numismatics. They are the ones scouring rolls, making TikToks, uploading finds to YouTube, and spreading the excitement. They are proving that this is not just a hobby of the old, it is alive, vibrant, and growing. And in that growth, the 1981 penny stands as a symbol. It reminds us that there is always something new to discover, even in something as old as money. It reminds us that the world is full of hidden gems, waiting to be uncovered by those who have the eyes to see and the patience to search. It reminds us that value is not fixed. It is created, nurtured, amplified by the stories we tell and the passion we bring. So, as you listen to this story, ask yourself, what treasures might you be overlooking in your own life? What pennies, literal or metaphorical, might be waiting in your pocket, dismissed as ordinary, but secretly extraordinary? Because if a 1981 cent can rise to the value of a mansion, then who knows what greatness lies hidden all around us? This is not just a story about a coin. It is a story about hope, about history, about human imagination. And as long as coins exist, as long as stories are told, the legend of the 1981 penny will continue to grow, inspiring dreamers, collectors, and believers for generations to come. And now, as this story comes to its close, we are left with one undeniable truth. The 1981 1-cent coin is more than money, more than metal, more than history. It is a symbol of possibility. It is proof that greatness can come from the smallest things, that legends can be born from the most ordinary objects. Who would have thought that a penny, something most people ignore, something left in jars, dropped on sidewalks, forgotten at the bottom of pockets, could rise to a value greater than entire empires? And yet here we are, speaking about it, dreaming about it, hunting for it. The whispers of a sale worth $253 million may forever remain in mystery. Some believe it, some doubt it, some chase it as though it were destiny itself. But whether fact or legend, it does not matter. Because legends shape us, legends inspire us, legends keep us alive with wonder. That is what this coin has become, a living legend. Perhaps right now, in some old drawer, in some dusty attic, in some forgotten jar, lies a coin that could change your life forever. Perhaps the treasure of a lifetime is sitting silently, waiting for you to notice it. That is the beauty of this story. It does not end here. It continues every time someone checks their change, every time a collector flips open a coin roll, every time a child learns that even a penny can be priceless. So never dismiss the small things. Never overlook what seems ordinary. Because sometimes the most extraordinary treasures hide where you least expect them. And maybe, just maybe, the next person to discover a miracle could be you. And when that moment comes, when you hold that coin in your hand and realize that it is not just copper and zinc, but a piece of magic, a piece of history, a piece of legend, you will understand why the world calls it priceless. You will understand why it captures hearts and imaginations. You will understand why a penny, a single 1981 cent, can change everything. Because at the end of the day, the true value of the 1981 penny is not just in dollars. It is in the story, in the hope, in the dream it plants in all of us. A dream that the impossible can be real. A dream that something small can hold infinite worth. A dream that one day, against all odds, fortune could find its way into your very own hands. And that, my friends, is the legend of the 1981 1-cent coin.